Have you ever done something small to someone else, good or bad, and then wondered later if life somehow remembered it? And have you ever looked at your own blessings or your own pain and quietly asked yourself, is this really random? Or is there some invisible law keeping track of everything I think, say, and do? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. Thank you for being here again, willing to sit down and look honestly at your own life. Today we are going to talk about a topic that sounds simple on the surface, but if you really live it, can completely change the way you walk through this world. The law that whatever you send out, in some form, returns to you. Some call it the law of cause and effect. Some call it karma. Others simply call it what goes around comes around, no matter what name we use. The core point is the same: your life is not a collection of random accidents. Your happiness and your suffering are not handed out blindly by some moody universe that loves some people and hates others. They are, to a very large extent, the unfolding of seeds that you yourself have planted in this life and in lives before. The original text that inspires this long sharing asks a sharp question: does everything you do to others really return to you? And it answers in a way that is both comforting and frightening. Yes, it does, sooner or later, in ways you might not expect. So in this video minus style script, I want to walk with you through stories, reflections, and airy down minus to minus earth examples that bring this law to life. I do not want to just say, be good, do not be bad. You have heard that since you were a child. I want to help you feel, from the inside out, why kindness is not just a moral decoration, but a profound act of self-protection and self-respect. And why hurting others is never only hurting others. It is also quietly writing the script of your own future pain. As we go along, I invite you to do something every time you hear about a character, a story, or an example. Do not rush to think of someone else. Pause and ask, where have I done this? Even in small ways. What kind of seeds am I planting right now in my own life? Because the real power of understanding cause and effect is not in judging others, but in awakening yourself. Let us begin with a simple picture. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a calm lake. You pick up a stone and throw it into the water. Immediately, ripples form, expanding outward in circles. At first they are strong and clear. Then they become softer, but they do not disappear instantly. They spread, touch the shore, bounce back, sometimes overlap with other ripples. Every thought, every word, every action you send into the world is like that stone. It drops into the vast lake of reality and creates ripples. These ripples touch other people, influence their moods, their choices, their lives. But the story does not end there. The ripples travel, reflect, combine, and eventually, in mysterious ways, they find their way back to you. The problem is, unlike the lake's surface, life's lake is huge and complex. We do not always see the direct connection between the stone I threw 10 years ago and the wave that hits me today. So we call it bad luck, fate, or the will of some external power. We rarely recognize our own signature in our experiences. Spiritual teachings about cause and effect are like someone handing us a pair of clear glasses. When you put them on, you begin to see patterns that were invisible before. You begin to see that the way you talk to your parents today might echo in how your children talk to you in 20 years. You begin to see that the way you judge, gossip, or show compassion shapes the atmosphere around you, which then shapes the kind of people and events that come into your life. To make this concrete, let me tell you a story. There was a man. Let us call him Victor. Victor was clever, quick with words, and very good at reading people. In school, he learned that the fastest way to make himself feel important was to joke about others. He had a sharp tongue. He could turn any flaw, any mistake, any awkward moment into a punchline. His classmates laughed. Teachers sometimes frowned. But he always escaped with a shrug and a charming smile. Inside, Victor told himself, I am just being honest. People should not be so sensitive. Besides, it is just a joke. He carried this habit into adulthood. At work, he made himself the center of attention at office gatherings by telling stories about colleagues. He imitated their accents, exposed their small weaknesses, turned their embarrassing moments into entertainment. If someone looked uncomfortable, he added, I am just kidding. His words were like little knives. He did not see the small cuts he left on other people's hearts, because he was too busy enjoying the applause. Now, watch how cause and effect works, slowly and quietly. Over the years, Victor built a reputation as a funny but dangerous person. People laughed with him on the surface, but inside they did not trust him. When they were in trouble, they did not think of him as someone to confide in. When he made mistakes, nobody rushed to protect him the way colleagues sometimes cover each other out of loyalty. One day, his company went through a painful restructuring. Positions were cut. Rumors started flying. In that atmosphere, every person's real image, not their charm, began to matter. Victor had a colleague named James. James was not especially brilliant, but he was stable, kind, and discreet. Over the years, he had helped many co-workers quietly explaining tasks without making them feel stupid, covering shifts when someone's child was sick, offering a listening ear without turning people's stories into gossip. When managers were looking at who to keep, they considered not only skill, but also who contributed to a healthy atmosphere. Many colleagues spoke up for James. They said, he is dependable. He lifts the team. When Victor's name came up, silence filled the room. Nobody wanted to say, we do not like him, but nobody could honestly say, we feel safe with him. In the end, James stayed. Victor was let go. From Victor's point of view, this was pure injustice. I am smarter. I bring energy to the room. Why did they keep that boring guy and fire me? He mourned his bad luck, complained to his friends, blamed office politics. He did not see that. For years, his words had been quietly carving his own fate. Every time he made a joke at someone's expense, he was throwing a stone into the lake. The ripples had returned. This is a very small example, but it shows something important when teachings say whatever you do to others will return to you. They are not being poetic. They are describing a chain of real effects. When you treat people as disposable entertainment, you slowly build a world in which you yourself are not deeply valued. When you treat people with respect, you slowly build a world in which others feel moved to respect and protect you. Let us look at another kind of story. Almost the opposite. There was a woman named Maria who worked in a small bakery. She was not rich. Her salary was enough for rent, food, and a bit of savings. Nothing more. But she had a habit whenever she saw someone in genuine need. She would help in some way, even if it was small. On cold mornings, she sometimes slipped an extra piece of bread into the bag of an old man who came with coins carefully counted in his palm. When a single mother who lived nearby struggled to pay for a birthday cake for her child, Maria quietly gave her a discount and pretended it was a special promotion. She never posted these things online. She did not tell grand stories about her kindness. It was simply her natural way of living. Years passed. Life was not always easy. She had her own health issues, her own heart itches, but the atmosphere around her was strangely warm. Neighbors liked her. Children greeted her on the street. When she walked into the market, vendors smiled in a way that was not just about money. Then one winter, the bakery owner died suddenly. The new owner decided to modernize the place, cut staff, and focus on online orders. Several employees were let go, including Maria. For the first time in years, she found herself without work. She was already in her 50s. Competing with younger workers for jobs in the city was not easy. Her savings began to thin. Fear knocked at her door at night. But then, The ripples she had created long ago began to return. The old man whose bread she had quietly increased turned out to have a son who owned a small cafe. When he heard that the kind lady from the bakery was out of a job, he immediately offered her a position as the cafe's main baker. The single mother whose birthday cake she had discounted recommended her to a friend who ran a catering service. "If you need someone reliable, call Maria," she said. Within a few weeks, Maria had more offers than she needed. She chose the job that allowed her enough time to rest her body. Her new boss trusted her so much that he eventually made her a partner in the business. Standing in her new workplace, exhausted but grateful, she sometimes thought back to those simple choices she had made years ago. She had not helped people as an investment. She had not kept a mental notebook saying, "I did this, now you owe me." She had simply followed her heart, and yet, life had remembered. This is another way cause and effect works. When you consciously or unconsciously send out kindness, you shape the network of relationships that will catch you when you fall. You plant seeds in other people's hearts that can blossom at unexpected times. Law, in a spiritual sense, is not always dramatic. Very often, it is quiet and ordinary. At this point, you might say, these are touching stories. But what about the countless times when good people suffer and bad people seem to prosper? This is the question almost everyone asks when they first encounter the idea of a moral universe. If what I do to others returns to me, why do I see kind, honest, sincere people facing illness, betrayal, loss, while selfish, cruel, calculating people sit in luxury? If you have ever wrestled with this question, you are not alone. It is one of the hardest questions. Spiritual traditions answer it in several layers. One very important layer is this: you are seeing only one chapter of a long book. Maybe even one page. Imagine watching a movie by entering the theater in the middle and leaving before the end. You watch a scene where a character is crying and another character is laughing cruelly. Based on that single scene, you might say, this director is unfair. The bad guy is winning. But you did not see what led to that moment. You also do not see what comes after. From the perspective of cause and effect across lifetimes, today's events are ripples from stones thrown long ago. In this life and in lives before, some seeds sprout quickly. Others take years or even lifetimes to show their fruit. This does not mean you should sit and speculate about what someone must have done in a past life. That easily turns into judgment and superstition. The point is to understand that the timing of consequences is complex, and that visible results are not the only results. A person who appears to be successful while harming others may be, in reality, piling up heavy debts that will ripen later. Even in this life, you can often see that behind their apparent power there is inner emptiness, anxiety, and fear of exposure. Their outer comfort cannot protect them from the inner atmosphere they themselves have created. A person who faces hardship while maintaining kindness may be, in reality, burning old karma quickly, like someone repaying a debt faster instead of dragging it out. Their pain is not a sign that kindness is useless. It may be the final chapter of an old story, clearing the way for something cleaner. But here is the key: regardless of the detailed mechanics of karma, there is one thing you have direct control over right now: what kind of seeds you are planting in this moment. Imagine your present heart as a field. The soil contains remnants from all sorts of past seasons. Some parts are rich, some parts are dry, some parts are full of old roots. You cannot change what has already been planted and grown in the past, but you can decide what to plant today. If you keep sowing seeds of bitterness, greed, and indifference, then no matter how unfair the past may have been, you are prolonging the same pattern. Your own field will mostly grow thorns and poisonous plants. If you choose, again and again, to sow seeds of patience, generosity, and respect, then even if the soil is difficult at first, you are slowly transforming that field. Over time, more and more gentle plants will grow. They will feed you and also provide shade for others. This is why spiritual teachings insist so strongly on personal responsibility. They are not trying to blame victims. They are trying to awaken creators. Right now, every time life pushes you, you have a choice. You can react blind and repeat old patterns, or you can respond consciously and plant different seeds. You cannot were right yesterday, but you can stop writing the same script today. Let us enter more specific situations, because this is where cause and effect becomes very real. Think about the way you speak when others are not around. Do you use their absence as a chance to attack them freely? Or do you keep some basic respect even when you are frustrated? A young woman named Hannah once discovered, in a very painful way, how gossip can return to the sender. At her workplace, people often gathered in the pantry to talk about colleagues who were not there. It started as harmless sharing. Did you see what he wore today? Did you hear what she said in the meeting? But slowly, the conversations became more poisonous. Hannah was quick with words, so her comments became more and more extreme. She did impressions of people's voices, mimicked their habits, exaggerated their flaws. Others laughed. She felt powerful. One day, a new colleague joined the team. A quiet man in his 40s. He did not participate in gossip. When people tried to drag him in, he politely smiled and changed the topic. His behavior made some people feel uncomfortable. They joked that he was too serious. Hannah especially did not like him, because his calmness seemed to silently question her behavior. She started making jokes about him to his age, his clothes, his lack of involvement in the fun. What she did not know was that, every few days, someone who felt uneasy about her gossip would go to that quiet colleague and complain. He listened and said nothing, but he observed. Months later, the company announced that this quiet man had been appointed as department head. Nobody had known he was being considered. He had been quietly observed by upper management for months. As soon as the promotion was announced, a wave of nervousness spread through the office. People wondered, will he remember who said what? Will he take revenge? He did not take revenge in a childish way. He did not spread rumors about those who had gossiped about him. He did something more subtle. He began to reshape the team culture. He clearly stated that gossip would not be rewarded. In performance reviews, he paid attention not only to technical skill but also to trustworthiness. He encouraged those who had stayed away from toxic talk. He gave them more responsibility. As for Hannah, he did not fire her immediately, but he did not give her sensitive tasks that required discretion. Opportunities that could have helped her grow went to others. When she asked why, he answered calmly, "Trust is our most important currency here. I need to know that what is said in confidence stays in confidence." In that moment, she remembered every time she had thrown someone's secrets into the air for laughs. She realized that her own tongue had built the wall that now stood between her and the opportunity she wanted. Could she blame him? Or fate? Or office politics? She could try. But deep down, she knew that the ripples had come back. Cause and effect is not some external judge punishing you. It is the very nature of how actions create consequences. When you misuse your words, you build a world where people do not feel safe trusting you. That lack of trust then limits your future. Now let us look at a more touching, soft example of how good seeds return. There was an elderly woman, let us call her Grace, who lived alone after her husband passed away. She had no children. Her income was small, yet she had one joy: feeding stray cats in her neighborhood. Every evening, she would prepare a small amount of food and go down to the alley. Cats who had once been scared of humans now waited for her. She spoke to them gently, as if they understood every word. Neighbors sometimes mocked her. They said, "You are wasting money on animals. They will not repay you." She smiled and answered, "Kindness is never wasted. Even if they cannot repay me, my heart feels at peace." One winter night, she slipped on ice and fell. Her leg was injured. She could not stand. The alley was empty. It was freezing. She lay there, pain shooting through her body, whispering, "Is this how I will die?" Then something strange happened. The cat she had been feeding appeared. They circled her, meowing loudly, restless. They ran to the entrance of the alley where pedestrians passed. Normally, people ignored stray cats, but that night, these cats were unusually insistent. They circled an old man walking by, scratching at his pants, then running back toward the alley, then again returning to him. The man felt something was wrong. He followed them and found Grace lying on the ground, shaking. He immediately called for help. Later, in the hospital, she told the story with tears in her eyes. She knew that, in some mysterious way, the kindness she had given had returned, not in exactly the same form, not through a human, but through the loyalty of animals and the awakened response of a stranger. Is this an accident? Or is it an example of how sincere compassion shapes the invisible web of life around you, so that when you are in danger, life reaches back to hold you? You can decide for yourself. The central question of our discussion is this: if everything you do to others returns to you, how should you live now? Moment by moment. A simple answer is, treat others as you would like to be treated. But that sentence has been repeated so much it can become numb in our ears. Let us make it more vivid. When you stand in front of another person, you are standing in front of your future. The child you are impatient with today might echo your tone back to you when you are old and need care. The partner you neglect today might mirror that same coldness to you in your greatest moment of vulnerability. The stranger you help today might become a crucial link at a turning point you cannot currently imagine. When you are tempted to lie, ask yourself, do I want to live in a world where people lie to me? Do I want to wake up one day and realize that nobody's words can be trusted? If the answer is no, then every lie you swallow is like a small act of self-defense. When you feel the urge to humiliate someone in public, ask yourself, do I want moments in my future when I am exposed and mocked? If not, why plant that seed? When you hold money in your hand and must decide whether to be greedy or fair, ask yourself, do I want to live in a reality where people cheat me whenever they can? If the answer is no, then choose fairness. You are not only protecting the other person, you are protecting your future self. Of course, we are human. None of us is perfect. We will still slip. We will still say things we regret, act out of impatience, harm others out of ignorance or fear. The point is not to become a flawless angel. The point is to become more and more aware of the chain of cause and effect, to the point where even if a selfish impulse arises, you have enough clarity to say, no, I do not want to create that kind of future. I will endure this discomfort now rather than create more suffering later. You can think of it as a deep, wise form of self-love. Short-term comfort often leads to long-term pain. For example, shouting at someone may temporarily relieve your frustration, but it damages trust and plants seeds of resentment. Keeping silent for a moment, breathing, expressing your feelings later in a calmer way is more difficult now, but it builds long-term harmony. True self-love is not giving yourself whatever you feel like in the moment. It is making choices that respect the law of cause and effect, choices that protect both your heart and the hearts of others. Now, you might be wondering, what about the things I have already done? What about the hurt I have already caused? Is it too late? Am I doomed to suffer those consequences? This is where another essential teaching comes in: the power of sincere regret and change. Imagine you are walking in a forest and realize you have taken a wrong path. You can stand there beating yourself up, saying, I am so stupid. How could I choose this path? Or you can turn around and begin to walk back. Regret, in a spiritual sense, is not endless self-criticism. It is clarity. It is the moment you say, what I did was harmful. I do not want to repeat it. From now on, I will try to act differently. There are people who, after understanding cause and effect, become locked in fear. They think, I have done so many bad things. I will definitely suffer. There is no hope. But that is like someone who has spilled ink on a page and decides the whole book is ruined, and then starts scribbling all over it because it does not matter anymore. Spiritual teachings say as long as you are still alive, as long as you can still change your thoughts and actions, you can lighten the weight of your past. You may not be able to erase all consequences, but you can transform how they ripen and what they lead to. For example, if you have hurt someone with your words, you can apologize sincerely. They may or may not forgive you, but the very act of apologizing changes your own heart. It breaks your pride. It opens the door for humility and compassion. That interchange will influence future situations in ways you cannot yet see. If you have misused money, you can start using money to support what is wholesome. You can donate to those in need, help people around you, back projects that bring wisdom or relief to others. Each generous action is like a light that cuts through the heaviness of past greed. If you have lied a lot, you can practice radical honesty. Starting from small things, you can train yourself to tell the truth even when it is uncomfortable. Slowly, you become a person whose words can be trusted. That trust will attract different kinds of relationships and opportunities. In many stories, people who have committed serious wrongs experience a deep awakening when they take responsibility. Their later lives become a powerful force for good. They help those who are walking the same dark paths they once walked. Their previous actions do not disappear, but their new actions reshape the meaning of their whole story. Think of it this way: the law of cause and effect is strict, but it is not cruel. It is stable, like gravity. You cannot ignore it, but you can learn to work with it. And sincere change is like learning to climb out of a hole you yourself dug. It may take effort, but every upward step is real. Now, let me speak to you directly, as if you and I were sitting face to face. You might be listening and remembering specific moments: a time you laughed at someone's pain, a time you betrayed a trust, a time you turned away from someone who needed you. You might feel a mix of shame and heaviness. Please do not use this talk about cause and effect as a whip to beat yourself with. Use it as a lamp. You cannot go back in time and rewrite the scene, but you can, right now, in this very breath, make a new kind of choice. You can say, quietly in your heart, I see where I was unkind. I do not want to live like that anymore. May the pain I have caused be lessened as much as possible. May I use the rest of my life to bring more goodness into this world. Such a wish, if it is sincere, has power. It becomes a new cause. And if you are on the other side, if you are someone who has been hurt by others and is wondering, will they ever pay for what they did? Will life ever be fair? I want to say this: it is not your job to be the judge of all karma. You may never see the exact form in which their actions return to them. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your own heart. If you cling to hatred, constantly replaying their wrongs, you are poisoning your own field. The law of cause and effect will take care of their side. Your work is to protect your future by not letting their actions shape you into a bitter, closed person. That does not mean you should tolerate abuse or never defend yourself. You can and should set boundaries. Seek justice. Protect yourself and others. But you can do so from a place of clarity rather than from a prison of burning hatred. Forgiveness, when possible, is not saying what you did was fine. It is saying, I refuse to let what you did destroy my life. It is a powerful act of self-rescue. In that sense, even when others have planted thorns in your path, you can still choose to plant flowers at your feet. As we move toward the end of this long sharing, I want to bring everything back to one simple sentence. Every moment, in big ways and small ways, you are deciding who you will be in the future. When you talk, when you act, when you hold secret thoughts about others, you are writing invisible lines into the script of your own life. You may not see the full picture now, but when you understand that what you do to others comes back to you, you start living with more reverence. You begin to see each person not only as them, but as a mirror of your own cause and effect. The angry stranger, the rude driver, the difficult boss, the gentle friend, the saintly teacher, the fragile child, the lonely elder, the animal on the street, the people who support you and the people who test you. All of them are part of the field in which your karma moves. You cannot control them, but you can control whether your response today plants more suffering or more peace. I would like to invite you to reflect for a moment. Think of one relationship in your life that is currently painful. It might be with a family member, a partner, a colleague, or even with your own body. Ask yourself, what kind of causes have I planted in this relationship, consciously or unconsciously? What seeds am I planting now? If I continue like this for 10 more years, what will this relationship look like? Then ask, what small change in my thoughts, words, or actions would plant a different kind of seed today? You do not need to solve everything at once. Start with something small, a softer tone, a more honest conversation, a little more patience, a step back from confrontation, or, if necessary, the courage to set a clear boundary instead of silently accumulating resentment. Each of these is a seed. You are not powerless. Even in situations that feel stuck, you have some space to choose your inner attitude. That inner attitude alone, if it shifts, begins to change the flavor of your experience. If you feel moved, I would truly like to hear your stories. Have you ever experienced a moment when something you did long ago, good or bad, unexpectedly came back to you? Maybe someone helped you in a way that mirrored a kindness you had once offered to another. Maybe a careless action came back as a painful lesson. Or are you currently trying to live more consciously with cause and effect, practicing kindness not just for others but also for your own future? Share in the comments whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Your story might be exactly what another person needs to hear to wake up from numbness or despair. If this long, heartfelt conversation has given you even a small shift in how you see your own life, I warmly invite you to support this channel. You can subscribe so you will not miss future sharing about awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny. You can like this video, leave a comment, or share it with someone who might be wrestling with the same questions. Your support helps this space continue to exist as a place where we do not just chase quick comfort, but dare to look deeply at how our hearts are shaping our fate. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this third article. May you walk through this world with eyes open and heart soft, knowing that every small act matters. May you have the courage to plant good seeds even when nobody is watching. May you have the humility to correct your mistakes and the wisdom to learn from cause and effect, instead of fighting it. And may you, when you look back years from now, see a life woven not by random accidents, but by countless moments when you chose kindness over harm, understanding over judgment, and responsibility over blame.
Life gets noisy. Work, stress, expectations. Sometimes we lose touch with the quiet part of ourselves. Bracelet isn't just an accessory. It's a small reminder that you deserve peace. You deserve moments of stillness. You deserve to hold on to your inner balance. If one of these bracelets speaks to your heart, you'll find the purchase link in the description below. And even more auctions available on our channel's shop page. Pick home the one that feels right.